We all dream of visiting the Arctic and witness the natural wonders of polar bears, walking on the ice or the northern lights. Looking across the sky, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you won't find any tourists walking around. Why are you playing in Antarctica? Let's first look at where Antarctica is located. Where is it in the southern hemisphere and at the poles? The southern hemisphere is surrounded by the Southern Ocean and most of the continent is covered with ice. Let this be one of the remotest places and the coldest in the world you've ever experienced. Has anyone been to Antarctica? Probably never, because it's one of the places the least visited place in the world. Only a few lucky surveyors get it. Go in, which is mostly ice cream and ice fields, but trust me, there are wild animals and the scenery there is out of this world. So why shouldn't you travel there? Antarctica, first of all, the environment. That's incredibly fragile and this continent can be easily destroyed. There is no indigenous population, so walking your way will be like a trip to an island that is There are people living there, and don't forget that it's one inexpensive destinations that the ultimate journey, however. Antarctica doesn't have a fortress to keep you safe, controlled, but there is an international agreement that calls for the Antarctic Treaty has get signed to prevent unwanted activities, purpose in the area and prohibit some forms of testing, as implemented by member countries. But the main reason we can't travel in you can go to Antarctica because it has delicate ecosystems that need protection. Protect the treaty that states that Antarctica should be used for peaceful purposes only and should be free from human activities that may be environmental hazards. Scientists still probably studying about the ecosystem. Uniqueness of this place is the activities and machinery. Ours may disrupt the delicate balance. It exists, but if you still want to go, Antarctica is already a request for permission to enter. Going is not an easy thing. For example, U.S. citizens are required to complete a special form and sent to the Office of Ocean Affairs and the poles, and when you get there you will. Strict guidelines must be followed to protect the environment, such as not disturbing wildlife or collect souvenirs such as rocks, plants, or animals. You actually live in Antarctica. Is it possible, even though there is no law prohibiting it? People live there permanently, but it has its conditions. Unfavorable and unsuitable environment. Human habitation could be as cold as -60 degrees Celsius, making it nearly impossible for humans to survive without equipment and appropriate experience. In addition to the land, the closest one is more than 1,600 kilometers away, leaving residents cut off from the outside world. Absolutely, but maybe one day we will have it. An opportunity to visit a unique and fascinating continent. But until then we will be delighted. It's better to come from a distance. Now let's talk a little bit about the discovery of Antarctica. Antarctica has never had a human population living in a different continent than any other continent that lived has before ever had the people. Ancient Greek philosophers, the idea of this continent was called anaeros, which means opposite to a bear. This bear is not a polar bear, but of the constellations Ursa Major and Ursa Minor, which can be seen only in the northern hemisphere does this term exist. The meaning is opposite to this land. Hunting expeditions for walrus and seals in the late 1770s and early 1880s would continue south when they had to round Cape Hun at the end. The best of South America is well known for going in the south. The wind will be stronger, and there is a risk that will collide with any size of floating ice and wind. The seas could be dangerous for ships and crews. Captain James Cook was the first to cross the Antarctic Circle when on January 17, 1773, in the Ross Sea, he reached a point far heading north a year later, and even though he had not yet seen land, but he had arrived at a distance of 80 kilometers and saw the rocks piled up in the mountains, icebergs that indicate there is still land. Further south, Antarctica sightings. The first is generally known to have occurred. It was launched in January 1820 during a voyage of 2 ships under the command of Captain Godle Forbing-Salen as part of the 2-year global exploration to find the land. The new ship of the captain was the first to cross the Antarctic Circle after Captain Cook. First port of call in Antarctica. Problems arose until later on. January 24, 1895, at Cape Darrow during a voyage. The hunt for the Antarctic ship led by Henry Booz, a small boat with 6 or maybe 7 men, rowed to shore in calm weather, you might die. Don't believe it, but Antarctica is actually. This is the desert with ice that you see. You might think it's like a wonderland. In winter, there is snow play and drinking. Hot cocoa all day. When we think of the sea wind, we think of sand, we think of images of otters and cacti, and people are struggling to find a water source, but in Antarctica is something different. The difficulty is not the search water, but it is a search for something that is not frozen. Coverage and average rainfall of only 0.4 inches over the past 30 years. It is like just a few drops of rain that we regularly encounter on the way. Technically, desert doesn't mean sand dunes or the intense heat that makes it dry, but it's the lack of rain. But don't worry if it's suddenly you are lost in Antarctica. What would you do? And worrying about being thirsty, but worrying about having with a jacket and gloves. That it is so cool that you can freeze to death. Antarctica is not just one of the driest places on Earth, but still the coldest, windiest, and highest. With the best of many things, sometimes penguins and scientists in Antarctica must encounter a slight problem when it comes to timing. You know, they are not like most of us, big on Earth, because Antarctica has no time. All the secondary lines converge at a point. Even at the South Pole, they might get a headache. A little while ago I thought, what time is it? Now you might be thinking, what about scientists? How can researchers know the time there? This question is generally good and will be based on the zone of the country of departure, however, has stations from around the world on the Antarctic Peninsula. Maybe there some minor problems. Try to imagine the communication. Coordinate with people who live in different countries. Forget about the time zone and accidentally wake them up. Coming in the middle of the night, you might think there's nothing there. Survives in extremely cold temperatures. The sun is barely visible and the wind can blow you away fast as a piece of junk, as in many places on Earth. Life also found its way into Antarctica. Do you believe that there is a continent with a hard membrane? This place has many activities. It is home to billions of krill, attract seals, and many penguins are allowed into the area, but don't let the image of a fat, huggable _ fool you. Penguins are very good swimmers. They have a body so slender that it could be a swimming champion. Even the Olympics must be jealous of them landing on the shore to breed and rest, but the ability. Their true nature is to steal stones, gravel from other bodies, and stay together in groups to keep the body warm. Antarctica also is home to the largest species of penguins. Best in the world is called a penguin. These creatures are birds that emperors just because they can fly doesn't mean they can't. No, you can't jump. Some penguins can jump as far as 3 meters. And don't forget about the seals with a unique singing voice. These marine mammals have protected by the Antarctic Treaty, and they also grow well in the cold water of Southern Ocean, but the animals are really outstanding. Those are whales in Antarctic summer. These gigantic creatures will appear. They are a group that comes to eat the abundant krill. It's like a buffet for whales.